Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about book characters, and I love this topic. I think it's so interesting, and I talked about in my last video about a little bit about making this video, and a lot of you guys, thought it would be interesting or whatever, so I decided to go ahead and do it. Now the topic of this video actually came up because I was talking about how when I first started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, I pictured Amarin to look like this, and this is how I pictured Amarin in pretty much all the books up until I realized, I started looking at fan art, that she was Asian. And I had no idea. Now that I know that and I see all the fan art of her looking that way, I totally picture her that way. But when I first started reading the book, this is how I pictured Amarin, and it totally caught me off guard when I realized that she wasn't this character from The Fast and the Furious. And to me, this was so Amarin. The vibe, the personality, and everything about this character just screamed Amarin to me. Now I actually haven't reread the books, so I don't know exactly how Sarah J Maas describes Amarin. I don't know if we all just collectively decided that Amarin is Asian, or if she actually was described as Asian. Can somebody please tell me? Because I actually don't know how Amarin was described. I must have missed it. I missed the memo, because this was my Amarin for a very long time. And I think it's so interesting. I would love to see this video done by other people, if they maybe thought of the characters as specific actors as they were reading, or if their version of a character was completely different than how they were described in the book, and how you came to that conclusion in your head, this is the character. I just think it's really, really fascinating. And also, for me, some of you guys might be able to relate to this. I have always picked three main guys for my male love interests. And sometimes they waver a little bit, but usually if a character is described a certain way, one of these three guys will usually be the male love interest. Most of the time. Not always though. Sometimes they're not, but I find that a lot of times if I can't put a face to a character, I'll usually, these are my three go-to guys. Is there a person that you always go to when they're described a certain way? I'd be very, very curious about that. I'm gonna start off with the book Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Now the reason I'm starting off with this book is because I feel the characters for me in this book were so specific to certain characters, and it's so funny to me because I can't think about this book without thinking about these specific characters in my head. And I think that sometimes when you picture certain characters in your mind, it can make or break a book for you, because there's been books in the past where I think about a character that I don't want to think about. A good example would be Roomies by Christina Lauren. I pictured Calvin, I'm pretty sure his name was Calvin in that book, as Ryan Cabrera. And if you are not a millennial, you may not know who Ryan Cabrera is. But because I could not stop thinking about Ryan Cabrera, I don't know why. I don't know if it was because he was a musician in the book, or Calvin, the name Calvin reminded me of Ryan Cabrera. I don't know what it was, but the second that face got put onto that character for me, I couldn't unsee it. It's not my type, personally. And so because of that, I couldn't fully enjoy the book, because in my head I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan Cabrera. And you would think you'd be able to switch the characters, but for me personally, I can't just turn off a character. Once a character has been created in my head, I can't change it. It's the weirdest thing. Some of you guys might feel you can change the characters over time, but this is one of the reasons why I hate it when characters get haircuts in books, because okay, let's be honest. In this new House of Sky and Breath book, Hunt gets a flippin' haircut. She cuts his hair. Hunt in the first book had long black hair. That is Hunt to me. He has long black hair. If you're gonna change his hair, he's suddenly a completely different character to me in my head. I can't change how Hunt looks. So this entire House of Sky and Breath book, I've been picturing Hunt with long hair in a little man bun, because that is Hunt to me. Hunt can't be short-haired. It just doesn't work, don't change a character's appearance to me halfway through a book. It does not work. Now, the reason I'm starting off with this book is because the characters in this book are so vivid to me, and I think it's one of the reasons why I love this book so much, because I have such a strong vision for the characters. And like I said, characters can make or break a book. I truly think that. So Victor Vale in this book, ever since I read this, is David Bowie. And I don't know why I pictured David Bowie. And it's a very specific David Bowie, because we all know that he has very different looks. But it's the blonde David Bowie. And it is so spot on to me. If anybody pictures Victor Vale not as David Bowie, it feels wrong to me. And it's just spot on to me. Am I not 100% right there? This is Victor Vale. Completely Victor Vale. And then the other guy, what's the other guy's name? Ian? I think it's Ian. I pictured him as like this brown-haired guy with like kind of a shaved head, like really, really short hair, kind of like some scruff or whatever, boy next door type of look, just with like really short brown hair. And like this picture right here is the exact way that I pictured Ian. But that brings me to my next one. This guy right here, who was Ian in my head, was also Adam from Shatter. This character right here is Adam from Shatter. And when I pictured Adam, he was like a really big buff guy, but he had like this face, this look, kind of boy next door, a little bit more round features, really short brown hair, maybe a little stubble, but this face right here is Adam from Shatter. Now the interesting thing about Shatter is that my characters were all in their 30s. I know that the Shatter characters are supposed to be high school characters, like it's a young adult novel, they're young kids basically in that book. But I think part of the reason why I ended up liking that series is because in my head, these people were not children. They were 30-year-old people. And I was able to picture the characters as more like mature characters in a way. And when I think about how Aaron Warner is supposed to look versus how I picture him, it's completely different because I cannot picture Aaron Warner as like a young kid. It just does not make sense to me at all. So I feel like if Shatter was ever made into like a movie or a series, like I just couldn't watch it because it just wouldn't make sense in my head. Like in my Shatter reality, they're all in their 30s. And that takes me to who I picture as Aaron Warner. So there's a specific type of guy that I always think about in certain character roles. I have no idea where this man has come into my head from. I don't know where I've seen this person before. Like I feel like I'm taking this character from my past at some point or like a past movie or something. And I don't know where he's coming from. But it's this certain look in my head and he's been a few different characters. And it is this guy right here. So he's kind of like a tanner character, but he has like this hair that like stops right here and it's kind of like pushed back like in like this really messy way, and they kind of like put it behind their ears, but it's like pushed back and it's like a sandy blonde color, and they're really tan. They kind of have like those like sultry eyes that are like very like squinty, but they're like very model-esque in a way, and they're in like their late 20s, 30s. And this is how I pictured Aaron Warner. I cannot picture him as a young boy at all, and it's so funny to me that like this specific guy, and I have no clue who he is a guy that plays a role in my head in a million different books. Another person that this specific guy plays in my head is Tharian from the House of Sky and Breath and House of Earth and Blood series, the Mer guy. This is the Mer guy, this is Tharian. So not only is Tharian this guy, he is also Aaron Warner, same guy. And then another character that I pictured this guy in is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. The main love interest in that book, again, don't remember his name, he was also this character. And it's always like this cocky character too. Like he always plays a more cocky role, and it's usually somebody that's described as blonde. This is usually who I picture. But if it's not this guy, it is this guy. So Chris Hemsworth is like top tier for me as far as like actors go, you know. Now I pictured Chris Hemsworth in this role as the love interest. What's his name? Reed Diggory. So Reed is actually a redhead, and I could not for some reason picture Reed as a redhead. It was so hard for me to picture Reed as a redhead, and so it always bothered me when I'd look at fan art because in my head Reed doesn't have red hair. Like it was really hard for me to picture. Reed to me was Chris Hemsworth. At first I pictured him as like Thor Chris Hemsworth with like longer hair, but like as time went on in this book it started to be short-haired Chris Hemsworth with like a little beard and everything. But yeah, he is not redheaded to me. Like he is Chris Hemsworth 100%. Another character that I pictured as Chris Hemsworth was the prince in the Ash Princess trilogy, and it's the Thor version of Chris Hemsworth with like the long hair. So Chris Hemsworth is also in this book for me. Chris Hemsworth also played the role of the love interest in Window Shopping, the one that I just read by Tessa Bailey. So Chris Hemsworth plays a lot of roles in my book head, but he's a go-to for me. So another really, really weird one that I find to be odd is Elaine from A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I know that a lot of people picture Nesta, Elaine, and Feyre all to kind of look a little bit similar. Usually I feel like people picture like Nesta as, you know, that same sandy hair color, but a little bit more like bitchy. And then Feyre is just a little bit like girl next door. And then Elaine is like doughy-eyed Elaine, you know, but they all kind of have like the same hair color and everything. For me, Elaine has always looked like, I think her name is Rose Byrne. Is that her name? And it's the Rose Byrne from Troy. And she has like really curly, long black hair. She has her face. And I've always pictured Elaine as being really dark haired, like the character from Troy. And whenever I see Elaine as like this blonde or like sandy blonde haired girl in like fan art, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like when I read Elaine's book, like she is going to be this character. And I feel like that's very weird because I don't think Elaine was ever described as having dark curly hair, but this is just how I picture her and I have no clue why. Okay, so the next character is from The Wrath and the Dawn, this book right here. So one character that was extremely strong in my mind and a character that I really fell in love with was Khalid. But the thing I love about Khalid is I love his personality in this. I talked about it in my favorite characters of all time. He's a quiet, shy, introverted king, and he doesn't really like a lot of attention. He's very quiet and kind of to himself. So Khalid, in my head, is a character, or a guy, he's a model, that everybody always pictures as Reese, which by the way, he would make a very good Reese as well. But the first person I pictured him as was Khalid, and that is Tony Mafud? I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he is a model, but everyone says this needs to be Reese in the adaptation. He fits so well as this character for some reason to me, and like in my head, Tony and King Khalid are just one and the same. Like this is Tony. So another one that I think is really interesting is Hunt and Cassian. So I feel like everyone kind of pictures Cassian the same. I picture Hunt and Cassian as kind of like the same character, just with different wings, to be honest. And Hunt, for me, is different than how Hunt, I feel like, is thought with other people. So Hunt, especially on the cover of House of Sky and Breath, he definitely has more of a feminine, like he has more feminine features. Like he has like the rounder lips. He definitely has that like feminine manliness to him. And I do not picture him like that at all, actually. I picture him as like the most manly, kind of scary looking, like warrior guy. Like this is probably the best way to explain it. Like he almost has like this evil warrior type of quality that's like really, really, really rugged. He probably has scars all over his face, and he has like really kind of like, not ratty, but he doesn't like brush his hair all the time. Like he'll throw it in like a man bun sometimes and stuff, but he's definitely not like well kept. He doesn't have soft hair. He's like a full-blown like Umbra Mortis, but he just strikes me as like this type of character, like more evil looking, less like pretty, like ethereal angel, you know what I mean? He's like this to me, like deadly looking. But see, here's the funny thing is, if I'm thinking about a specific person, like an actor or some random person that I saw on TikTok or Instagram or like a model that I've seen in the past, they have a very clear face. Like I can picture their face when I'm reading. But if I'm just creating somebody in my head from scratch, usually their face is very like, it's kind of like not there. Like it's not really, really clear. I can picture their hair, I can picture their body type and stuff like that, but I can't usually picture their face fully. It's usually kind of a blur or just like very, very vague features like big eyes or big lips, but it's not like a clear vision. So I think part of the reason why I picture celebrities and I picture very specific people is because it makes the image in my mind clearer and I can actually picture their faces. And so I think that sometimes that's why I picture like celebrities and stuff like that. So anyways, that is this video. I could do probably a lot more characters. Let me know if you guys thought this was interesting, and I want to know down below if there's any characters that you picture very, very weirdly, like they just got in your head at the very beginning of a book and you're like, why do I picture this character this way? It's so weird. Like I'd be so curious. Or if you think any of my picks are really odd or really strange, I'd be very curious to know. So yeah, just pop your characters in the comments. I'm so curious what you guys are gonna say. So yeah, that is the video. I didn't want to make this too long, but if you guys want to see more of these in the future, let me know and I will do them. So anyways, thanks for watching guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.